From a disaster in Pakistan that buried 1/3 of the country, and a Peruvian woman who narrowly escaped a torrent of debris, to a freak mudslide in Switzerland that had locals running for cover, and a rare tropical storm that turned this dry creek into a muddy river. Here are 10 terrifying mudslides caught on camera. In March of 2017, Peru experienced its worst string of floods and mudslides in almost 30 years. The capital of Lima was without power for days as torrents destroyed critical infrastructure. People lost their homes and livelihoods, including farmers who watched their stocks and crops vanish in the dirty water. In Punta Hermosa, a tiny village outside the capital, locals watched in horror as a violent mudslide ripped through the streets. Watch as debris piles by the culverts and a cow tries desperately to keep its head above water.
Qué increíble. Miren, esta es la vaca, 2 vacas. Qué locura. La vaca está atrapada en el huaico. Está a punto de colapsar todo. Está tratando de salir.
Moments later, our cameraman pivots to film what looked like a small mobile home, or a shipping container that had been converted into an office.
Oh no, se viene un container ahí. ¡Oye, salgan de ahí! ¡Oh, mierda!
Things were getting dangerous, especially after the container clogged the culvert, causing mud and debris to pile near the sides. Our cameraman moved to higher ground when he noticed people pointing and screaming at the mudslide. That's when he noticed something, or rather someone, trying to escape.
¡Hay una persona! ¡Hay una persona ahí!
The woman, later identified as Evangelina Diaz, had fallen in while walking along the riverbank. She clung to a tree branch and several pieces of wood to stay afloat. Thanks to help from her neighbors, she escaped the mudslide with only a few cuts and bruises. As for the cow, it also escaped unharmed. When this video was recorded, 750 districts around Peru had declared states of emergency. At least 62 people had lost their lives, over 100 were injured, and roughly 60,000 were displaced after record-setting rain caused similar levels of destruction around the country. Grunier, Switzerland is a tiny town in the canton of Valais. It's a small alpine community that isn't used to making national news. That changed in 2017 when an insane mudslide raced down the mountains and tore through the village. It began with a strange noise on August 7th. The locals claim they heard a rumbling sound between 3 and 4 minutes before the mudslide arrived. That sound, quite simply, was unthinkable amounts of mud and debris racing downhill at blistering speeds. You'll quickly notice how the mudslide changed the landscape from this vantage point on Google Maps. You can see where Grunier dug and built sturdy rock walls on either side of the drainage system to avoid a repeat. We're also glad the yellow house is still standing as of 2024. Thankfully, nobody was hurt during the 2017 event, and the mudslide did not cause significant damage. Cleanup was a pain, but in hindsight, things could have been much worse. According to reports, the mudslide originated in a mountain stream after heavy storms swept through the area. Melting winter snow also added to the overflow. 2022 was a terrible year for floods in Pakistan. Between June and October, cataclysmic flash flooding submerged about a third of the country and impacted close to 33 million people, half of whom were children. There is no shortage of footage documenting how severe the flooding was. This clip from July 27th of 2022 helps put the whole thing in perspective. Imagine something like this covering an area the size of Arizona. We believe this footage was shot near the Karakoram Highway in Upper Khoistan. Thankfully, everyone remained safe on the side and nobody was injured as the unrelenting mudslide split the village in two.
पीछे रोको इनको नहीं छोड़ो इसको आगे नहीं छोड़ो अच्छे मना हुआ है पुलिस हुआ
The 2022 floods occurred after Pakistan received more than twice its annual summer rainfall. Simply put, all that extra water had nowhere to go. It washed away 2 million homes and destroyed roughly 4 million acres of farmland. Roads and bridges were destroyed, meaning rescue and aid workers couldn't help those stranded on the other side. Many struggled long after the rain subsided, as they were left without electricity, food, and clean drinking water well into 2023. Aconcagua Provincial Park in Mendoza, Argentina is an awe-inspiring location in the Andes Mountains. Thrill seekers from around the world come to enjoy weekends of hiking, skiing, climbing, and other outdoor activities. They just have to be mindful of random landslides. It was January 24th of 2016. A group of hikers was crossing a narrow stream when their guide heard something in the distance, something that made his skin crawl. To the hikers, it sounded like a passing airplane. Thankfully, the guide knew exactly what was coming. The danger had passed, but the group could not risk crossing again until everything had stopped. Many of them stood there for several minutes, reflecting on what they narrowly avoided. Looking back, you can spot when our guide, Julian Inceralde, hears the landslide coming. He's the man in white you see straddling the stream. The hiking crew was on a 3-day trek through a landslide-prone area. Julian had been well trained to recognize the signs and, more importantly, the sounds. His swift action likely saved a few lives that day. Yan'an, China is a prefecture-level city in the mountains of Shanxi province. It's home to about 2.2 million people who know a thing or two about land, rock, and mudslides. For several days in July of 2013, torrential rainstorms battered the region, impacting roughly 1 million people. 4 locals added themselves to the tally when they set out for a casual drive. All seemed normal on the winding mountain road until a mudslide nearly deleted their car. The mud was on them in seconds. The impact is so great that the CCTV camera can hardly hold on. All you can see of the car are its taillights cutting through the dust as endless amounts of debris pummel the top. We can only imagine what it sounded like inside, mixed with the sound of everyone screaming. The chaos soon subsides, and miraculously, 2 men emerge. A third stumbles his way out, but soon makes it to safety. They're understandably shell-shocked, but they're not about to abandon their final passenger. With no way of knowing if the landslide is over, they rush back and pull a 4th person from the mangled vehicle. Thankfully, all 4 men survived the ordeal. Their car, however, was a total loss. Paz de Rio is a small district in northern Colombia. Most of its inhabitants live in small villages along the banks of the Soapaga and Chicamocha rivers. They rely on water for power and irrigation, but they know all too well how quickly Mother Nature can turn. On December 6th of 2011, locals in La Chapa village watched as a massive mud and debris flow threatened to wipe them off the map. Please excuse the chaotic footage. Keeping a steady hand isn't easy when this is happening all around you.
Ya. Mira, acá. No se hacen allá. Ojo el posta más bien.
Information from the Colombian jungle is limited, so we don't know much about this specific event. In general, 2011 was a challenging year for flooding and mudslides in Colombia. Torrential rains during the wet season damaged close to 150,000 homes. Over 69,000 people were left homeless, and damage estimates hovered around $5 billion. We do know that a similar incident occurred in Paz de Rio in April of 2012. This flood was apparently bad enough to prompt a visit from then Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos. Mount Rainier is an active stratovolcano in Washington state, about 59 miles south of Seattle. At 14,410 feet, it is the tallest peak in Washington, but only the 17th tallest mountain in the United States. Mount Rainier is highly rockfall prone, especially during the summer melt season. Most are small and generate weak seismic signals. Others are massive, like this rock slide from late June of 2011. As you watch this clip, consider how heavy all that debris is and how quickly it's rolling down the mountain. Thankfully, these national park rangers were far enough away to appreciate the rock slide without being in any danger. They described the debris flow as a mix of rock and ice roughly 50 feet thick. It traveled about 7,800 feet before finally stopping in a flat area near the Nisqually Glacier. It traveled about 7,800 feet before finally stopping in a flat area near the Nisqually Glacier. Now, hurricanes might be common in the Pacific Ocean, but they rarely make their way to California. Before Hurricane Hilary in August of 2023, the last storm to land on the West Coast was Hurricane Norman in 1978. Before then was 1939, and before then was 1858. They're rare because the cold waters off the coast of California weaken the hurricane as they move north from Mexico. Hurricane Hilary managed to survive the journey north and made landfall as a tropical storm in San Quentin on August 20th. Heavy rain made its way to Wrightwood, California, where it quickly flooded Sheep Canyon. A father and his children were standing nearby when the first surges came downhill. Dad figured this was a prime opportunity to teach his kids about Mother Nature.
Sheep Canyon wash. That is all avalanche debris from this winter. It's just kind of getting locked up at every check dam, and then it's going to release again and head farther down. Okay. Okay. Whoa, guys. All right. All right, let's go home. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go home, guys. That is just gonna keep going all day.
This was only the tip of the iceberg. Downstream, flooding from Hillary blocked off roads and covered the area in a thick layer of mud and debris. The storm dropped more than half a year's worth of rainfall in some portions of California. Wrightwood alone saw about 6.23 inches, where other places like Lytle Creek saw as much as 9.5 inches. On February 25th of 2022, a powerful 6.2 magnitude earthquake struck West Sumatra, Indonesia. Over 200 aftershocks followed, triggering landslides in an area where the ground was already unstable. In the Pasaman district of West Sumatra, an initial landslide washed away several homes and bridges. Then, just when everyone thought it was over, a second roared through, knocking over the coconut trees that the first landslide missed.
La ilaha illallah.
The region continued feeling aftershocks for the next several hours. However, it's unclear if the Pasaman district saw any more mudslides come through. In the end, the earthquake and ensuing landslides claimed 27 lives, left over 450 injured, and caused catastrophic levels of damage across West Sumatra. Not all mudslides travel at insane speeds. Sometimes it's the slow and steady ones that do the most damage. These locals in Guilin, China learned that lesson the hard way on June 22nd of 2022, when a slow-moving mudslide carried their home over a cliff. It began with an intense rainstorm around 12:20 a.m. Unfathomable amounts of mud and debris seeped over the river's edge and quickly flooded a main street. It rolled like the blob toward this wooden home that never stood a chance. Thankfully, those living inside the home were evacuated long before the mudslide arrived. There were 21 rainstorm warnings in Guilin in the month leading up to this disaster. About 2 weeks before, farmland high above the destroyed home developed severe cracks in the soil due to heavy rain. Saturation made it heavier than normal, and then gravity took over from there. From what we can gather, the wooden house wasn't the only building lost. According to a situation report, the mudslide caused extensive damage to several buildings and significant property loss. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, be sure to click the link on screen now. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.